In a world where left is up and right is apparently wrong, do souls make sense of it all? Or at least have fun trying? Gear up, friends, for Chicken and the Dog. Welcome to another episode of Chicken and the Dog. I am the dog, and with me, as always, is the guy that is known for his awesome dance moves, the chicken. What up, Doug?
Yeah,
Oh,
brother. I won't
is
give
that
you
the
any
Trump
more.
dance?
That is the Trump dance. I won't give you any more because it is a family show and I need to keep everybody's dander down.
No bumping and grinding.
No bumping and grinding. Let's keep it respectful. Children may be watching.
Yeah, for sure. Look, guys, we are in week 5. It's exciting. It's sad, all in the same sentence. Look, man, I mean, what's really exciting about week 5 is the amount of great conference games that are out there, man. It makes your Saturday a little more hectic than normal. Unless it's your team watching, you're gonna stay focused on that. But that 12 o'clock, 3:30, or 7 o'clock period that is not when your team is playing, you're going to be flipping before so many games because there's just so much going on. And we're going to get to those games in a minute, man. But it's really exciting, but yet kind of sad at the same time because it's moving a little too fast for me.
I feel like a kid in a toy store who's been given carte blanche for one item. There's so much to choose from, but I only get to leave with one thing. So I'm oppressed by this conflict of overwhelming emotion of what about all this? And I need more. I need more.
You need more cowbell.
I need more cowbell.
That's right. All right. So look, man, let's talk about some of the news, things that are happening in college football, because there's quite a bit, some big stories, right? So Gundy's gone. Gundy is gone.
I don't know what kind of math or economics that they teach at Oklahoma State, but I don't disagree with the idea that maybe it was time for a change in the program. But I read something this past week. I actually read it before this was announced that the buyout for Gundy's contract before some date in December, so let's just call it the end of the season, the end of the regular season, was $15 million. If they had waited until after that date, meaning they waited until the end of the season, the buyout dropped to $10 million. Now, Cowboy fan, I just need to know, what do you think you're going to achieve in the next 8 games with an interim coach that's worth 5?
Well, I might be able to answer that,
I
and
hope
because
you can.
well, and so I'm gonna take you to class from. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm gonna leave that alone. But no, in all honesty, man, because I didn't. It didn't until you started talking. And I was like, "Well, I got it." Look, man, they must have their eye on a coach, on a current head coach right now that they want. And now remember, Virginia Tech is looking for a coach as well, right? So now and look, there's a good chance that there's other teams that are coming up in the next week or two that are going to be looking for a coach. You cannot think for a moment that Billy Napier's seat isn't hot. It is. Sam Pittman's seat, and we'll get to that in a little bit, could get hot. So maybe the Oklahoma State alum and staff are thinking, look, man, we know who we want to go after. It's this guy or that guy, whatever it is. We've got our top 2 or 3 candidates, and we need to grab one of them now before a Virginia Tech or a Florida or an Arkansas, or name the team, Clemson, you know, grabs them. So maybe that's why they pull the trigger now, because they want to go get their guy.
Don't disagree with your logic. I see where you're going with it. The question that I would pose is based on, I think, some pretty good experience as a fan. South Carolina fans believed that with the lineage of Lou Holtz, into Steve Spurrier that the Gamecock job had become, I'm not going to say a destination job, but it had certainly become what we thought was a higher echelon job. Looking back on the search, we ended up with Muschamp. We ended up, he was our consolation prize. Okay, y'all are looking for a coach too. That's cute. Here's Will Muschamp. Um, and it all but destroyed it. It took the job from this level down to this level. Hell, Mike Bobo didn't even want to hang around, right? Like, it's like, my buddy Kirby is going to Athens, so I am too. There was a difference between Gamecock fan expectation, Gamecock program expectation, and reality in the coaching search. So what I am posing here is Oklahoma State head coaching vacancy now versus Virginia Tech. They're not fishing in the same pond. Virginia Tech is going to end up with a Muschamp. They're not. There's a lot to be done in Virginia Tech. Arkansas, I think Arkansas is a bigger draw because you're in the SEC. You're not a bottom feeder in the SEC right now. Arkansas is a good program. So if Pittman gets relieved of his duties, that's a good draw. And in my estimation, I'm an SEC guy, but in my estimation, that's a bigger draw than an Oklahoma State position. Florida, come on, shut up. I know that Florida has had some struggles and all that, but Florida is still a bigger draw than not only Oklahoma State, but arguably Arkansas as well. So these guys aren't fishing in the same pool. If they are, you're going to end up with a Muschamp.
Yeah, I mean, but look, man, if you remember, and you kind of I thought you were going there, but you diverted. When Carolina was looking for a coach after Steve Spurrier, it was all but in ink, I believe, that Kirby was going to go to Carolina.
It was, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's why we ended up with the chump, because a program like Georgia, who was entertaining the idea, they were thinking about the future. There's make no mistake, Mark Richt was a loved head coach at Georgia,
sure,
to a point, to the point that I think that the head shed knew this guy's not going to get us to the promised land. He's going to continue to build this program. Nobody could out-recruit Georgia in those years, right? Other than the famed Nick Saban. But other than that, Georgia was building a fury. What happened with the Kirby Smart thing? I think that Georgia was going to let Kirby continue to mature like a fine wine under Nick Saban and only get him when they absolutely had to. And when South Carolina came sniffing at the door, they made a move. And they said, no, that's our guy. We got dibs. And that's so right. They pulled it. And so that's what I'm saying could easily happen here with an Oklahoma State. If you go fishing in a pond that you don't have the right bait for, somebody else who maybe they're not ready to let their guy go yet, but they're at least thinking about 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, they'll be like, yeah, sorry, Sam, love you, mean it, but.
Like that coach at South Florida, the Memphis coach.
That young man, he ain't going. South Florida, Alex Golish will not be in Tampa next year.
No.
That's my solid bet. Obviously, with Oklahoma State being on the board, with Virginia Tech being on the board, there are opportunities out there already for him to seize. With other programs that may come up on the board as the year progresses, he's a hot commodity right now. He's going to a big school.
So before we move on to the next one, man, because we got a lot of good topics. So let me pose this question to you. So does the Gundy fire other teams like what Georgia did with Mark Richt to get Kirby? Does it spark some other team that's a bigger school like an Arkansas, like a Florida, to make that move because they all have their eye on one or two people? Possible.
I think, and this topic comes up a lot. It may very well come up again in this show. College football today is not what college football was years ago, decades ago. College football today is so much more in line with the NFL. So not only are players acting as free agents in the offseason, coaches need to watch out for their job security in the sense that they might be ready to jump ship from your program to a better program just as much as a struggling program is going to look to jump ship from that coach. It is a volatile market, folks. Buy, sell, trade, whatever you got to do, hang on to your loyalty because that's all you got left.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting. Look, man, talk about a program in the same state where Gundy resided. John Mateer has broken his hand. He actually broke his hand during the game, and hung in there and ended up winning the game and finished the game. But they thought it was in his best interest to go ahead and have surgery, which I think he went to L.A. and had surgery by some really famous doctor. That's probably one of the best. Anyway, good move for them. But he's expected to miss a month. They just say a month, right? So I started to look at what does their schedule look like within that month. Well, first of all, they have a bye this week. That's good. Then they play Kent State. All right? You should be fine. Then they have the Red River rivalry. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to say, so you're saying there's a chance? Maybe. And then after that, which would be the fourth week, they have South Carolina. Those 3 games, they could win 2 out of those 3 games, I think.
Yeah, I would say that they could win. Well, yeah, they could win 3 out of 3 in those games because here's something else that immediately jumps out at you. Like I said, you got a bye week this week, so that's great. You've got Kent State, I think is what you said, coming up after
Kent State,
that.
yeah.
Give me a break. That's a win. I think that you could roll out your third string guy to face those guys. Michael Hawkins Jr. is your projected starter coming up. He's a 4-star sophomore. You're not dealing with a slouch at quarterback.
No.
He knows how to play the position. How effective is he going to be in those games? I don't know, but he's got a full week of practice, and then he's got another week leading into Kent State, which let's just call it another week of practice with a scrimmage. You're right, like live action scrimmage. Texas. The reason that I put a big question mark on the Texas game is, do we know where Arch is yet?
No.
Not really. You can't use the win that they had last week against Sam Houston State as the defining moment. Okay, cool. Now he's playing well, right? So that's still kind of up in the air. That won't be resolved, I don't think, fully until going into this game when Arch starts playing against some SEC competition. We're going to know how good Arch is. Can he lead this offense? Your guy, John Mateer, is still going to be out, but now your backups had 3 weeks to prepare for the Red River rivalry. I think you could count that as a big potential win going into South Carolina. And then, let me just put this out there. Love my Gamecocks, but I'm going to speak to the Oklahoma fan right now. Depending on what kind of momentum the Sooners are carrying into the South Carolina game, if Hawkins is still your guy because Mateer needs another week to rest up his hand, man, he's on a tear. He's in a rhythm. South Carolina could be looking for something as an answer. If Mateer needs to come back and he's capable, well, now you're going into war with your guy, Mr. John Mateer. So they could end up coming out of this 3-0 from those 3 matchups.
They really could. But my question to you, one of the questions that I have is, you said Sam Houston State. Is it Sam Houston State or just Sam Houston? Do they deserve the state at the end of their title?
But so you say deserve. Do they deserve to not have state at the end of their title?
I don't know. But, I agree, man. I don't think this is a big a kick in the pants for Oklahoma, as some people may look at it. I really don't. I think they could come out, even if they dropped one game. If they drop one game, does it hurt their season? Absolutely not. And you better believe that John Mateer is going to do anything and everything to get back into playing football quickly, because although this may have hurt his Heisman status a little bit, I don't think it kills it either. So he's looking at, I want to get back in. I want to win the Heisman. I want to get back in. I want to win for my team. I want to go to the national championship. I want to make the playoffs, SEC championship. And I think that's going to be their path. I really do.
This really couldn't have happened at a better time for Oklahoma. And here's why. Now, again, Gamecock fan for life. I picked them to be 4-0 at this point in the season. Man, was I wrong. These next three matchups, Kent State, Texas, South Carolina, we just covered that. After that, let's go through the remainder of their schedule. Ole Miss, at Tennessee and Knoxville, at Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Then Missouri comes to town. Then they close out the season with LSU. Buddy, if you've got that stretch of games from Kent State all the way to LSU to pick, where do you want Mateer to sit? I think you want him sitting these next 4 weeks, not the last 6.
Yeah, not only that, but I think, if this would have happened, like you said, if this would have happened at the beginning of the season, nobody would know who John Mateer is. That team would not know who John Mateer is. Oklahoma players, coaches, the alum, the fans, everyone knows who John Mateer is. So he established himself in those first few weeks, and now he's going to be out for a few weeks. And so you're right. The timing is almost perfect. It's poetic. You like that word? Poetic?
I do. I'm glad that you used it correctly in a sentence. Congrats. I will not ask you to spell it.
Yeah, please don't. So look, man, something else that's happening right now is the ACC is following suit with all the other Power 4 conferences, and they are moving to a 9 conference game schedule. I think that's smart on their part. Get rid of some of the SEC teams that you're having to play so you won't get beat up too bad. That just happened.
That just happened. Is this another one of those, us too, we're doing it too. I mean, look, I have a lot of friends and family members that are ACC program fans. I mean, good for you. I'm glad that you decided to keep up with the status quo. Basically, one of those things of, they have to have a 3.0 to get into school. If you say so. Yep, us too. We have high academic standards. Whatever.
And speaking of nine conference game schedules, the SEC has finally released their rivalry set games for each team. And I'm not going to go through all of those. We'll go through Georgia's, and we'll hit some of the highlights. So Georgia is, as everybody thought, we definitely were keeping Florida and Auburn. And they've reintroduced the border bash, so Georgia and South Carolina are going to play every year. Alabama kept Tennessee, which everybody thought that they should, and Mississippi State and Auburn. South Carolina, you guys got Georgia, of course. Florida, right?
Yep.
And
Georgia,
Kentucky?
Florida and Kentucky, that's right.
Yeah, and those are kind of what we thought it would look like anyway. But like we were talking about, I'll let you get into it more. The cool thing about it is they're going to reevaluate this every 4 years. So, and I think that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I personally would have rather seen Arkansas instead of Kentucky, and here's why. Arkansas and South Carolina came into the Southeastern Conference the same year, and there was a natural rivalry associated with that. I like the protection of that. But again, with 16 teams and you're trying to balance out 3 fixed rivalry games, that's a tough matchup. I think that the SEC did the best that they could here to protect some of these border rivalries, to protect in-state rivalries, Auburn, Alabama, to protect historic rivalries, Georgia, Auburn, Georgia, Florida. You have to start somewhere, and I do like the ability to take a look at this every 4 years and say, is this still working? Is the Georgia-South Carolina game still really enough to be a rivalry game, or has one team fallen so far short of the other that it's just not competitive? And I think the SEC wants to drive that competitive aspect to make sure that they're continuing to put the best overall product on the field. Keep in mind, when it comes to these fixed rivalry games, these are going to be the games that you see in the prime slots on Saturdays. Okay, these are not going to be the ones that are on ESPN, right?
The Ocho.
The Ocho. You're not going to find these games on those channels. These are going to be those prime slots. So good job by the conference.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we can all probably agree there's going to be some games that they will probably always keep, rivalries that always. You're never going to get rid of the Egg Bowl. You're never going to get rid of the Iron Bowl. I doubt you'll ever get rid of the world's largest cocktail party. And you maybe not even I think they would get rid of that before they got rid of the Georgia-Auburn game, because that's the oldest rivalry in college football. I don't think you kill that.
And they're going to protect Texas-Oklahoma too, right?
For sure.
Your point. Now, what I'm trying to get at here, and I don't think that this is on anybody's radar for a cut, so don't misread me. But we have lived through a season where there was no Texas A&M game.
Uh-huh.
We've lived through that season as college football fans. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind when 4 years later they're reevaluating this and you're going, well, God, I love that game. We're now living through a season with no Georgia, South Carolina. And for those of us who appreciate that game, it means something. To the rest of college football, to the LSU fan, to the fans in the state of Mississippi. So
they don't care about the border bash.
They don't care about that game. And it gives you an opportunity. It gives you a 4-year window to either secure the importance of that game or to establish the importance of that game. And if you can't do it, let's move on and find another good matchup.
That's right. So let's move into the games, right, in the SEC. And boy,
we're here. We love this conference. Let's just dive in.
Yeah. And boy, is there some doozies. A lot of games that are going to shape some of the seasons and have a lot of implications with them. And let's start with the first game that I believe has a lot of implications to it, which is a number 22, 1-2 Notre Dame goes to Fayetteville, Arkansas to take on a 2-2 Arkansas Fighting Pittman's. Notre Dame is favored by 3.5 points, over and under 64.5. I like Arkansas in this game.
Arkansas in this game. Notre Dame is 0-1 against SEC competition so far this year, dropping to Texas A&M at home. They have to go to Fayetteville to play the Arkansas Razorbacks. That's a tough place to play. I don't care who you are. It's a long, arduous journey to get to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And the Razorbacks are going to be ready for this game. Taylor Green has thrown for almost 1,200 yards so far this season and 12 touchdowns. I definitely like the Fighting Pittmans in this game. I don't think that a win over a 22-ranked 1-2 Fighting Irish squad boosts them into the top 25, but I think it puts them nipping at the heels. I like Arkansas.
Yeah, I think it does. And the reason I said that this game has a lot of implications in it, right? So I think if Arkansas was to drop this game, I think Sam Pittman's seat gets quite a bit warmer. Quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that statement completely. I love Sam Pittman. We've been unashamed by putting that out there on this podcast. We're big Sam Pittman fans.
Yeah.
But I'll also say this. This game is a defining moment for each of these schools' seasons. If Notre Dame comes out of this, which I think they will, at 1-3, you're done, Irish fan. Your best hope is a 9-3 bowl season. You ain't making the playoffs.
There's no way.
And if you're Arkansas, if you drop this game to Notre Dame, Pittman's seat got hot and your season just got real rocky because competition only gets more from here.
Correct. 3-1 Utah State rose to Nashville, Tennessee to take on a number 18, 4-0 Vandy. Vandy's favored to win that game by 21.5 points. Over and under is 16.5. Dude, Vandy and Diego Pavia, Burt, they just run. They'll have their way with this team.
The first ever, as we said in our recap show earlier this week, the first ever Gooch to Dog of the Week player in the history of this program Diego Pavia, have they given you any reason not to say anchor down? I'm a believer. And I'm one of the victims here, but I'm a believer. Anchor down. They're 5-0.
Go Clark.
Go Clark. Go Bert. Go Ernie. Go Big Bird. I don't care who you need out there. Snuffleupagus, run through these guys.
Somebody said you sound like the Cookie Monster, so there's that.
Hey, C is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
Ooh, this game right here, guys. Look, man, 3:30 on ABC. Woo-hoo. A number 4, 4-0 LSU takes on a number 13, also 4-0 Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. We've been to that stadium. We've been to the Grove. It's exciting. It's an electric environment. Ole Miss is favored by 1.5 points. 54.5 is the over and under. I don't know if Trinidad's under center or is it Austin Simmons. Not sure, but I don't think it matters. Ole Miss wins this game.
The environment of Oxford. I love the environment of Baton Rouge. Garrett Nussmeier has not played up to the par that we, and not just you and I, but I think college football fans as a whole set for him coming into this year. He was arguably the leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy in my mind as a true pocket passer. I thought he was going to lead the LSU Tigers just in an offensive juggernaut against everybody. He has not met the 1,000-yard mark throwing the football yet this year. Austin Simmons is a question mark right now going into this game. Trinidad Chambliss has already proven himself that, hey, if you can't go, I got this.
I got your back.
In my opinion, you are going in to Oxford with an underachieving LSU offense. Oxford is a hostile environment. Lane Kiffin is a brilliant coach offensively and defensively. I like Ole Miss in this game.
Wow. But, man, this is the games that we've been waiting for, right? These kind of matchups, man, it's so exciting. And I don't think this one is any different. This next one is any different. A 3-1 was ranked as of last week they were ranked. A 3-1 Auburn takes the ride to College Station, Texas, to take on a number 9, 3-0 Texas A&M Aggies. A&M is favored to win that game by 6.5 points. So over and under is 52.5. You ready? I like Auburn in this game
as well. I haven't, how do I say this? It's a fine line for me with the Aggies of A&M. I've not been unimpressed by them. I mean, for crying out loud, they're 3-0. They went to South Bend and beat Notre Dame. My question is, are they a number 9 team? I don't feel like they're a top 10 team yet, but I also feel like Auburn is unappreciated in the landscape of college football right now, and I look for Auburn to upset the Aggies in College Station.
Too, and I think people would call it an upset. I don't know. I won't know if I would classify it as an upset. On paper, it looks like an upset because it's an unranked playing a number 9 team. But Auburn's been playing pretty good football this year. There's no doubt about that. And so, yeah, I think Elko's doing a fantastic job at College Station. I don't want to take anything away what he's doing. But I think Auburn wins. All right, this next game.
Before you transition, it's just real quick. It's interesting to me that you talk about on paper it's an upset, but you don't view it as such. I think on paper A&M is supposed to beat Auburn, but I also think right now, again, like I said, I don't feel like they're a top 10 team yet. It feels to me like this is one of those games where you're going to look back over the season and go, well, yeah, A&M wasn't going to come out undefeated. They're going to drop one here or there. This feels like one of those ones that they're going to drop.
Yeah, I think so too. This next game could be really, really interesting. A 3-1 number 15 Tennessee has to go to Starkville, Mississippi to take on a 4-0. That's right. A 4-0 Mississippi State Bulldogs. Tennessee is favored to win that game by 7.5 points. Over and under 62.5. I'm going to go with Tennessee on this. And I think they break the Mississippi State's 4-0 record. I think they drop a game here. I think Tennessee is for real. But I don't know, man. I think this is going to really tell us how much Mississippi State has turned that program around. This game is going to really lead that to that.
Couldn't say it better myself. I completely believe that Tennessee is going to come in there and just wear Mississippi State out. The question is, and I'll say that this is a defining game for Mississippi State, not because, gosh, you guys really need to win this game, but because it's going to show us how they bounce back after. Tennessee has been lighting up scoreboards all year long, including in their loss to Georgia. They put points up on the board. They put yardage up in stat lines. It's going to happen again in Starkville. They're going to wear out Mississippi State. But how does Mississippi State respond? This one loss, when you leave here at 4-1, and both teams will leave the stadium at 4-1 on Saturday, as far as I'm concerned. When you leave here, is your season over and it's just nothing but losses after that? Or do you respond and bounce back and say, we're not done yet? Big game for the Bulldogs.
Big game for the Bulldogs. This next game, and this is how much I care about. You ready? A 0-3 Massachusetts takes on a number 24, no Missouri. Missouri wins again. That's it.
How about that?
Okay.
Moving right along.
And then there's 2 games left in the SEC. And I'm going to give, well, we'll start with this one. All right. So a 2-1 Kentucky takes on a 2-2 South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium, Cola Town. I'm going to tell you right now, South Carolina bounced back from a loss against Missouri. I don't think Kentucky is anywhere close to the talent level of not only Mizzou and Vandy, which is the 2 games that Carolina dropped to, but I would also say to even Carolina. I think Shane Beamer has this team ready. They'll be fired up. South Carolina will be 3-2 after this game.
Well, these are dark days for the chicken, my friends. I look at this game, and I got to tell you, I don't know. If you look at what Vanderbilt did in Columbia, South Carolina, they dictated the game on the ground. They controlled the game on the ground. South Carolina could not respond to that. The game in Columbia, Missouri, the Tigers dictated that game on the ground. South Carolina could not respond to that. Lenora Sellers had one of his best games through the air against the Missouri Tigers in a losing effort. South Carolina has got to get the run game going. They've got to control the tempo of the football game, and they've not shown anybody yet this year that they're capable of doing that. I'm going to tell you right now, as much as I hate to say it, that Mark Stoops knows how to do that. It's been his downfall that he's concentrated too much on that in the past. But right now, man, that's South Carolina's Achilles heel. And if he can keep them from running the ball effectively and he himself can control the clock, this could be a rough evening for the Gamecocks. I'm not going to call it. I'm that much in the air. At the beginning of the season, everyone knows that we forecasted Kentucky to be a dumpster fire, and this was an easy W for the Gamecocks. Buddy, it's anything but easy on Saturday night.
Yeah, I still think you guys have it, man. I think Carolina's got that game. Yeah, I just do. I'm not saying it because my distaste, almost said hatred, but it's a very strong word. So my distaste for Mark Stoops, I think he's a punk. I just don't like him. I think my dislike for him is probably as equal as yours, as Eli Drinkowitz. But I think, and I'm not basing that off my pick. I'm not going to pick against Kentucky every week because of that. I really believe that South Carolina is a way better team. I think Shane Beamer's a better coach, and I think that they adjust and handle business. I really do.
This is a big game. This is just like the other games we've talked about as far as the defining moment for both teams. South Carolina does have the opportunity to win and bounce back and show that they can dig deep and find something inside themselves to push forward through the rest of the season. Huge opportunity for both of these schools. I'll be watching on the edge of my seat.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I even believe that Uncle Kenny has alluded to that Williams-Brice is not an easy environment.
Yeah, it's not. If you're not wearing garnet and black, it's a tough place to be.
That's right. Now, that leaves us one game left in the SEC. It's a doozy.
It is.
Number 17, 2-1, Alabama makes that roll into the motherland, Athens, GA, to take on a 3-0 number 5 Georgia. Georgia is favored to win that game by 3.5 points. The over and under 52.5. What say you, chicken?
Wow. If you haven't caught on yet, there's an underlying theme in this episode of this is a big game. This is another defining moment for both of these programs. Alabama 2-1, losing that opener to Florida State, who's proven not to be a slouch, by the way.
That's right.
Okay. So it's not like Alabama lost to a nobody. Georgia at 3-0. They've had some tough victories up against Tennessee with a brilliant call by Kirby Smart to just keep that kicker iced, get them into overtime where his guys could rise up and win. This is a huge game. I am very nervous about this game for Georgia. Both of these teams are no strangers to big environments. So the fact that we're in Athens, I know it plays a bigger part nowadays than what it used to as far as home field advantage, but I don't know that that scares Alabama too much. I'm at a push in this game. I really don't know which way to go. If I had to flip a coin, if somebody put a gun to my head, I'd probably say that Georgia is going to find a way to win this game at home. But at the same time, Georgia, you do have Mike Bobo, and he's no stranger to making the bad call at the worst time to cost you a ball game. It's a stickler. I'm a big believer in Gunnar Stockton. He's the guy that, like Diego Pavia, likes to try and find a way to get it done. This one's up in the air for me, folks. It's just going to be a fun one to watch. I can't wait. My popcorn's going to be ready.
You know, this game has, it has a lot of implications to it, right? And for me, if I have to look at the teams on paper, I'm going to say that they're pretty equally as far as talent. I mean, when we did our forecast show in the offseason of what does Georgia look like, what does Alabama look like, they are both, as I like to say, loaded with talent, right? That was a tough win for Georgia and Tennessee, but that was also in a very hostile environment. That was a hard loss for Alabama against Florida State, which you said has proved to be a pretty good team, right? At least so far. I think the difference in this game, I think it all comes down to who's the better coach. Is equal. Georgia, you got to believe Georgia's going to have the edge because of the environment, right? Athens is not an easy place to play. I don't believe that Bulldog fans, alum, season ticket holders, and everyone else is going to allow the Crimson Tide to dominate in that stadium as far as the fans. Not going to happen. I looked the other day, one of the cheapest tickets you can find in a decent level was $700. Upper level nosebleeds, $400 a ticket. This game is going to be all red and black in there. And so can Kirby get out of his own way and finally climb the hump and beat Alabama in a regular season or in a SEC championship game, right? That's the difference. I say yes. I actually think Georgia wins this game by more than 3.5 points. I say Georgia wins it by either 7 or 10 points. I think it's that big. I think Kirby makes a statement win against Alabama.
I think that for Georgia to win this game, they have to win it that way. I think if this game stays close, because again, and it's not, I don't mean to say that Mike Bobo is a poor play caller. I mean, heck, he's getting paid to do it, and I don't get paid to talk about it. I think that what this comes down to, though, is if Georgia can have themselves in a situation where they're not dependent on that crucial moment. Bobo, historically, with the ball in his hands, can make the wrong call at the worst time that costs clock. And it gives the other team an opportunity to hold on to a win or to get into a position to win. And if you're Georgia, you don't want to give Alabama those opportunities on Saturday. You want to come out with a 10-point lead, with a touchdown lead to where that's not as big of an issue. If this thing stays tight back and forth the whole way, that's where my question marks start popping up.
And I will agree with that because if there's one thing that we could say that Mike Bobo does well besides recruiting, he's an incredible recruiter. My Lord, is he great. But the one thing that he does well is when Georgia's on the offense, he controls the entire game with that offense, right? He does that. He does that well. But there's times where you have to adapt from that on those close game situations. And so that's going to be the test for my Bobo. If it becomes a game where he can't control because it's a back and forth, can he adapt to that? And I hope that he can. So, but it's going to be a great game to watch, man. My goodness gracious. So that leads us to the top 25 non-SEC games that are happening this week. And we're going to blow through some of these pretty fast. Number 8, 3-0 Florida State takes on a 3-1 Virginia. Virginia is 1-0 in the ACC. Florida has not played anyone in the ACC yet. Florida State's, favored to win that game by 6.5 points, over and under 59.5. I say Florida State wins.
I think that this is that game. Again, the same thing. Big game for both teams. I don't think that they're necessarily defining moments like this team loses and they're done. If you look at the leaders in categories coming into this game, Morris, quarterback for Virginia, he's thrown for over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. Taylor, the running back for Virginia, 298 yards and 6 touchdowns. Harris, the wide receiver for Virginia, 321 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. Florida State's undefeated, and they're ranked number 8 in the country right now. So it's in Charlottesville. I'm going to pick the Cavaliers to win this game and Florida State to drop there first, but by no means does that mean that Florida State's season is over. I think the Seminoles are for real. I just think that, like Texas A&M, this is going to be one of those games that we look back on and say, well, yeah, they were going to drop one somewhere. I think this is it.
Wow. Could be. I don't think I could disagree with that pick. And look, that game is on Friday. That's exciting.
Right. That's right.
Look, also another game that's on Friday that I think it's worth talking about. A number 24, 3-0 TCU takes on a 3-1 Arizona State in Arizona. I like TCU in this game.
I like TCU in this game. Arizona State, big storyline last year. No doubt about it. Everybody loved them. I think we all secretly wanted them to keep winning right up until they played our own respective teams. But they're just not the same team that they were last year without Scadaboo. Scadaboo's gone on into the NFL. I like TCU in this ballgame.
Next game is a number 21, 4-0 Southern Cal, the Fighting Prophylactics, take on a number 23, 3-0, the Fighting Illinois Curtises. And look, man, I think Illinois wins this game. All right. They're playing in Illinois. And I think what this does, 2 things. I think it bounces Illinois back into it, gets their head right. But I also think it shows how good Indiana really is. Okay. You're not going to speak on that. I get it. This next game, guys, look at here. A number 1, 3-0 Ohio State takes on a 3-0 Washington in Seattle. I mean, I think Ohio State wins this game. I mean, I hope that it's close. I hope that it shows, kind of gives us a better picture of who Ohio State is, because I don't think that win over Texas necessarily showed the world who Ohio State wins or who they are, especially after what we've seen Texas do since then. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Ohio State wins. I think it's going to be close. I mean, Julian Sayin is not having a bad year by any stretch, but 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions is not exactly a stellar stat line. So look for this to be a closer game than I think that the Buckeyes would want, but I think that they do come out on top.
Yeah. Another interesting game is a number 11, 4-0 Indiana takes on a 3-1 Iowa in Iowa City. Indiana is favored to win that game by 7.5 points, over and under 48.5. I think Indiana rolls through Iowa.
I think Indiana wins this game. I don't know about the rolling part. I don't think this is the 3rd consecutive week with 5 touchdown passes from Mendoza. One thing that they know how to do in Iowa is play defense and run the football. The thing that they don't know how to do in Iowa is score a lot of points. Indiana does know how to do that. I don't know that they'll roll, but I do think that they will very effectively outscore Iowa.
Yeah. The next game is a 3-0 Arizona takes on a number 14 4-0 Iowa State. Iowa State's favored to win that game by 6.5 points. They're playing in Iowa. I don't see why the Cyclones just don't keep handling business.
Yeah, I like the Cyclones.
And that leaves us with one more game to talk about. 7:30 on NBC, a number 6 4-0 Oregon takes on a 3-0 number 3 Penn State, the Fighting Franklins. Penn State is favored to win that game by 3.5 points. So over and under is 51.5. Oh my, I think Penn State wins this game.
You got Penn State in this game. Let me take us on a little trip. Let's go in. I have here in my hands another letter from my beloved Uncle Kenny. He has now begun to title his letters. This one is called Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, a study of two coaches. I love you, Uncle Kenny. Have a seat, kids, and be sure to take notes. Uncle Kenny is your substitute teacher for today, and today's lesson is a doozy. Everything put out in class will be on the final, and no late assignments will be accepted. Please hold all questions until the end. My first semester at the University of Vienna, I learned a thing or two about people. Mostly that the human soul can be as restless as the Danube in spring. The Viennese professors taught their Freud and their Jung as if they were gospel, and I, eager as a freshman, with too much coffee in his veins, soaked it all in. Since then, I've carried that lens with me like a pocket watch, clicking, ticking, reminding me that beneath the surface, nothing in life is as simple as it looks. James Franklin's tenure at Penn State has delivered consistent seasons and bowl berths. But in the crucible of big games, those spotlight clashes against elite foes like Ohio State, Michigan, or the looming Oregon Showdown on Saturday, his teams falter with frustrating regularity. His 3-9 record against top 10 opponents since 2014 isn't just a stat, it's a symptom of deeper psychological undercurrents ripe for a Freudian dissection. At its core, Freudian theory posts that the psyche as a battleground of id, ego, and superego, where unconscious drives clash with reality. In coaching, this manifests as internal conflicts that sabotage performance under pressure. Franklin squads often enter these matchups with the id's raw aggression, fueled by Happy Valley's fervor. But the ego buckles, unable to mediate the superego's harsh demands for perfection. Take the 2023 Ohio State loss. Penn State dominated early, yet conservative calls and stalled drives betrayed a fear of success, what psychoanalysts call dread of achievement. Freud saw such anxiety as rooted in Oedipal tensions, unconsciously viewing victory as a challenge to paternal authority figures, like the program's storied legacy, or even Franklin's own mentors. The coach becomes a projected father, strong yet brittle, unable to withstand the athletes' or teams' repeated aggressions. This dynamic echoes in Franklin's tactical rigidity. His game plans shine in low-stakes romps, beating Kent State or Bowling Green, but against dynamic attacks like Oregon's mid-game adaptations falter as if the unconscious resists deviation from a scripted ego ideal. Penn State's offense, averaging 18 points in big games, grinds to a halt. Turnovers spiking as Drew Aller's throws betray superego guilt over bold risks. Defensively, the unit wears down, mirroring Freud's death drive, a subtle self-sabotage where the thrill of competition curdles into fanaticism's shadow, punishing the self for daring to win. Psychodynamically, Franklin's history amplifies this. Recruiting triumphs mask unresolved conflicts from Vanderbilt days, where external pressures crushed his ambitions. In Happy Valley's authoritarianism ego chamber, the team's collective unconscious absorbs this, fostering shame and resistance rather than Cahuthian self-cohesion. Carl Jung would tell you that football, like myth, is never just about touchdowns and field goals. It's about archetypes clashing under the lights. When Oregon travels into Happy Valley, Dan Lanning's Ducks embody the hero's journey, while James Franklin's Nittany Lions wrestle with their own shadow. Lanning channels a more integrated psyche, his aggressive schemes unburdened by such baggage. In the alchemical, he uses such words, crucible of college football, where the collective unconscious of fans manifests as roaring stadiums, Dan Lanning and his Oregon Ducks embody the archetype of the hero on a quest for individuation. This matchup transcends mere strategy. It's a symbolic confrontation between the integrated self and the fragmented shadow. Lanning, as the Ducks' alchemist coach, represents the wise old man archetype, a mentor figure channeling the anima, the feminine soul that balances Oregon's aggressive masculine drive. His innovative schemes, like fluid option plays and adaptive defenses, mirror the process of active imagination, where the unconscious is harnessed to create synchronicity on the field. The Ducks already beat Penn State in the Big Ten title game last year, a symbolic omen. In myth, the hero does not triumph once by accident. He returns, armed with experience, to conquer again. The Ducks roster, infused with high-priced transfers and recruits, symbolizes the integration of disparate elements from collective unconscious, forming a mandala of unity. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel, with his poise under pressure, evokes pure Eternus, the eternal youth whose creativity disrupts rigid structures, much like Young's trickster figure outwitting the ego's defense. Note here, Dylan Gabriel doesn't play for the Ducks anymore. He's in Cleveland.
Uncle Kenny.
Yeah, Uncle Kenny. If that's on a multiple choice, choose C. Until Franklin confronts these depths, perhaps through psychodynamic coaching, to unearth repressed patterns, the big games will remain his psyche's blind spot, ending in familiar defeat. Lanning's Ducks will seize the moment as the hero confronting the father's house, while Penn State, haunted by its own shadow, once more yields to the myth it cannot escape. Unconscious forces are conspiring against triumph. The Nittany Lions are walking directly into a buzzsaw. Also give me Bama, Arkansas, and A&M.
Wow. Uncle Kenny, he may have been a little inebriated.
I would say that anytime that he tries to give a doctor level course to a freshman orientation, you can tell he's had a few.
Yes, the Dylan Gabriel pick kind of gave it all away.
Didn't it?
So what say you? Who do you think wins that game? I've got Penn State winning the game because Dylan Gabriel's not there.
Dylan Gabriel is not there, but I'm a big believer in the underlying current of what Uncle Kenny was saying. For whatever reason, be it a Freudian slip, a young misnomer, James Franklin has shown us one consistent thing. He can beat the little guy, and he's got trouble with his peers. I don't see him taking care of Dan Lanning and the Ducks. I think the Ducks are going to come in to Happy Valley, and they're going to embarrass Penn State. I think the only people leaving that valley happy on Saturday are Oregon fans.
Wow. We shall see, my friend.
That is right.
We shall see. Look, man, all in all, man, if you heard the games that we talked about, like I said, there are some doozies in this thing, man. It's going to be a great weekend of college football. Get plenty of rest Friday, Thursday, and be prepared to sleep in on Sunday or take a nap after church, whatever your thing might be, because it's going to be an exhausting Saturday. There's no doubt for the college fans. Look, guys, I got nothing else. Like us, love us, share us, subscribe, do all the things I tell you to do all the time. Listen to the dog, listen to the chicken. We will not steer you wrong most of the time. Chicken, you got anything?
Jesus won, and I am all crowed out.
Yeah. All right, guys. Love you. Deuces.